Well, welcome everybody to the February 14th Valentine's Day edition of Keystroke Live. I'm Dave Hunsinger. I will be talking about the database default function today. And this is, get the right place here, Keystroke Live, 9 a.m. Mountain Time every Thursday. Same login information as always. And I'm going to basically get right to showing you in Keystroke about the default function, how it works basically for inventory and customers, and then about some of the default lists. So I will move to Keystroke. And I'm probably going to go ahead and mute everybody, and then I will unmute for questions at the end. So hopefully you can still hear me there. But here I am in the Keystroke Database Manager. The default function is basically used for when you're adding new records to help populate fields. You can also use it when you're editing records. The one big thing about the default function is there is only one setup. So you can create associations like for price levels 1, 2, and 3 here based on a cost or a base price you enter. But if hardware is a markup of 50% and software is a markup of 100%, then you've got two different relationships. And how the default works is it's all about the relationship, and you just have one set up. So where that starts is here in Database Manager under Setup and Default. And I'm going to start looking at the adding new records. So I'm going to go to Add Mode, and here on Screen 1. When I select that, it brings up, you see in the title bar here, Inventory Main Screen. This is the database default for inventory add and security level of 7. What automatically gets populated. So in some things it's very simple, like for sale unit, we are putting each. Every time you create a new record, each is going to pop up in sale unit. The sale quantity is going to be 1. The tax code is going to be T. So there's a lot of those just basic simple defaults that you can do to help speed up item entry, populate fields that need to be populated. Then there's a direct copy relationship. Like if I look at alternate ID number here, when I click into that field down at the bottom center of the screen, this linked from number comes up. So what that's saying is the alternate ID, whatever is in the stock number field, is going to be copied in the alternate ID field. So if it's stock number 1001, the alternate ID will be 1001. We're just doing that to populate the field with something. If you don't like that happening, you can remove it and enter your own alternate ID number. Is a number, not an alphanumeric field. And then we have other relationships, like I can click into average cost. You see it's not linked to anything, but when I hit the down arrow and go into last cost, it's linked from average cost. So as I'm adding a new item, if I type in an average cost, it's automatically going to be copied to the last cost. When I go to base price, it's linked from last cost. So the base price, the formula in there is plus M50. Well, what does that mean? The plus sign means I'm going to do a calculation on what's ever in the field. What is already in the field is the last cost because that was automatically added. And 50% margin means I'm going to mark it up 100% or, do the formula 1 minus the margin over the price. I think that's it. And then, so if my last cost is $10, my base price is going to be $20. It's going to do that calculation on whatever in the field. And as I move down here, the list price is linked from the base price. It's just going to copy whatever the base price is. In my $10 example, the base price, or let's use $5 for an example. My last cost is $5. My base price is going to be $10. My list will be $10. My level 1, it's going to take base price. Plus sign means I'm going to do a calculation. Star means multiply, 0.95, multiply times 0.95, so it's going to be $9.50. Likewise with level 1, 2, and 3. All right, so sometimes actions speak louder than words. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit F10 to save this. I didn't change anything. Going to go control page down to my last item, page down to adding a new item. And it's copied. That negative means when the stock number 126 is in parentheses, that means it hasn't added that yet because I have a network version, and if I have 3 machines all adding an inventory item at the same time, whoever saves first will get 126, and then the next person might get 127. So it comes up as negative 126 because that's a projected number. But in my example there, when I said if I put $5 in the cost, when I hit tab, it populates all those fields. It's made last cost $5, base price, list price $10, $9.50, $8.50, $7.50 for those levels. That is the default relationship. And again, you only have one of those. So if you're adding, say you're a shoe store and you're adding a bunch of Nike shoes that have one price structure, you might put that in your default function. And then you're going to add a bunch of Reebok shoes and they have a different price structure. So you can change your default so it would automatically calculate them. The other thing is this works when you're manually adding items. So it doesn't work when you're importing items. And if you also see the each is populated here for sale unit and 1 for the sale quantity. Now, if you saw here as well under setup and default, we had edit modes. So if I look at edit modes, and this is just the tutor data, so you can go in and play with it and check it out, it's set up in the same way. So there is that relationship between average cost, last cost, base price. So if I save this, and again, I'm gonna say this is product code Dave, manufacturer Dave, description item, and I'm going to put in my cost. I am going to say I have 100 on hand. And go ahead and save this item. I just hit F10. So now, because level 1, 2, and 3 are based on base price, oh, and there is one parameter that I need to be sure I have turned on, and we'll see if I have it turned on. If I change my base price to $20, it's changed my list price to $20, my level 1 to $19, $9.50 times 2, 17 and 15. If I come in here and say, okay, my list price, I'm going to say is $39.95 because I want that to be kind of a comparison price, but boy, I'm giving these people a good deal. Well, but now I'm going to raise my base price to $30. You see, it's changed level 1, 2, and 3, but it didn't change the list price because I broke that relationship of base price equaling list price. And my level 1 price is 95% of the base price. If I come in here and say, oh, well, I want this to really be $29, Well, now I've broken that relationship of level 1 price being 95% of the base price. So if I change the base price back to $20, it'll change level 2 and 3, but it will not change level 1. So when I hit enter here, you see it's changed level 2 and level 3, but not list or level 1 because I broke the relationship. This is a long explanation of really there are better ways to update prices on existing items than using the default function. It's best used as a convenience as you are adding new inventory items to fill in fields as necessary. And a lot of times when I tell people, like in the shoe example, if you're adding a whole bunch of Nike shoes, you can come in here and go into setup and default, add mode, and come in here and say manufacturer is Nike, description, Nike, Air Jordan, size, space, dash, space, and, you can give it a class of shoe or whatever you have. So you can pre-fill in a lot of information so that if you're adding a lot of items, so if I go ahead and save this, and I can even come in here and say, okay, my average cost is $35. My last cost is $35. My base price is, $89.95. My list is $109.95. And maybe I'll leave level 1, 2, and 3 the same. Or let's just say that it's 85, 80, and 70. And, my sale unit is going to be a pair. I can save that. And now when I go to add a new item, it's going to have all that in there. So I just type in the UPC code, size 14, and, I have 3 pairs of those. Then I hit page down, size 13, and I have 6 pairs of those. So page down, size 12 and a half, I've got 10 pairs. So I can enter a whole lot of inventory easily. Now, shoes I might be using matrix, but that's just an example of a way of using it to help speed up item entry. We also have the database defaults on customer records. Again, I could come in here, set up default, add mode, and I don't have a whole lot of in here. I've got price table and tax table, what their purchases are. The dates, if you see, these are all 0. The total purchases, last purchase, last payment, those are dates. When the dates are 0, I'm just going to hit F10 here to save it. Control, page down, page down. So if I add a new, test, first name, David, last name, Hunsinger, F10 to save it. So you see these dates are blank because my default was 0. If I make the default a tilde sign, which is our representation of blank, then it would put the current date in there until it got populated. So basically, if I go back to my default, and change these to a tilde character, which is next to the 1 on your keyboard, right there, then the date would just show the current date until I made a purchase. So what could you do here? Well, everybody's from 970 area code, so I'm going to put that in phone and fax, everybody's in Dillon, Colorado, or maybe they're in different cities, but everybody's in Colorado, so I'm going to put it there. Everybody where I live has a PO box, and I can always delete it if I need to, but then when I'm going to add a customer, it's automatically populating these fields for me. So again, the default gives you a quick and handy way to enter information basically when you're adding records. You can also use it when you edit, but you have to have that relationship existing. One other thing, you can use it, and I'll show you right here. If you want to keep people out of certain fields, you can use it to set security levels as well. And let's go back to the inventory screen just to do that. You see how on hand and allocated and average cost and last cost you're locked out of them when you're editing records. And we do that because we think Keystroke should allow you to edit those items. Keystroke should update them and you shouldn't edit them. But you can go into the default function, edit mode here, and I can go into average cost, and you see down here in the bottom message bar, F3 is to edit security. So here I can hit F3, security level set to -1. I can change that to 0 and go ahead and save that. And now I'm able to go in and edit the average cost. That's very important for some people. Like I said, we really don't want you editing the on-hand quantities because that can cause confusion and you don't know what happened. You're changing the value of your inventory when those numbers change. And then also the other thing with that edit security is when it's set to -1, people are locked out. When it's set to 0, that means whoever has security level to edit the record can edit that field. If you set it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that just means whoever you need that security level or lower to edit it. So you could lock some people out of editing costs, but they can see the cost. And that's security level. And then you can also, it can be handy in the customer record. If you said, hey, I don't want people entering salutations or titles. When I'm in here, I choose set up default, edit mode. I hit F3. I can change that security level to -1. Title, I just hit F3, change that security level to -1, save it, and now I can't get to those fields. So if people are accidentally entering those fields, or if you don't want to stop at them when you're hitting tab, you can lock people out of those fields. I also wanted to talk about default lists. We have a function of default lists. We have one built into the program for zip codes. So when I hit insert here, I get a list of zip codes. If I select one, it actually fills in the city, state, and zip. But you could also say for class, you could set up lists. If I hit insert and it says, boy, you don't have a list. Would you like to create one? And I say, sure. And then proceed as text, and I can say preferred customer, employee, government, education. So I'm just creating a list of my possible customers. I can go ahead and save that list. So now when I hit insert, I get a list of things to choose from. Now there are fields that have lists, like if I go back to inventory, like the department. So when I hit insert here, it brings up my list of departments. But for sale unit, when I hit insert, we've got a default one that's each day, week, foot, inch box. So you can, and I could go ahead and edit the list, or I can just pick whatever I want to off of this list. And you can do that for any field on any database in Keystroke. So it's just a handy way of confirming and being sure you're entering the right information. One other thing about the defaults is you see we have, for add and edit, we have a security level of 99 and 7. So when I'm adding records, the people with security level of 7 or lower will see these first 4 screens. The people with security levels between 99 and 8 would see these 2 screens. Same thing with editing. People with security level of 7 or lower would see these 4 screens. People with security levels of how we have it set up, basically 8, 9, or 10, would see those. So you could create inventory screens maybe that don't show cost that people with security levels 8, 9 would see, and then security levels or screens with security level 5, 6, 7 that have a little more information, and security level 1, 2, 3, 4 that have everything. So it lets you control the information that's displayed to different security levels of clerks. And you can go ahead and copy these. These database screens are all held in a subdirectory of your data directory. So you can just copy them over. You can also, as you edit them, if I pull this one up, when I go to save it, I can say, oh, this is for security level 4, and it'll create a new database screen. And basically that is what I wanted to tell you about the default functions. I am going to go ahead and unmute everyone and ask if there are any questions. Hopefully you learned something. It's a pretty powerful function. But again, it's really designed for use when you're adding inventory items more than when you're editing. So, thank you. Anybody, any questions? Any questions at all?
Dave, I've got a couple of comments if I'm unmuted.
Yep, you are unmuted, Kennard.
Okay. The first one is I find those pricing links to be of absolutely no value whatsoever. And I go in and have to delete them on every installation. It would be nice not to have them or have an option, don't establish any links. And in order to do that, what I have to do is go into default and go into each one of those fields that's linked, press the F2 key to pull up the list, then press the escape, and then F10 to save. It's just kind of cumbersome to do.
Yeah. And
the other thing,
and yeah, maybe we could have a additional set of database screens we ship that don't have those links. And so it would just be a matter of copying those in. Also, if you do it once, you could take those screens and zip them up or put them in a file, and then you could just copy them in every time.
Yeah, that's true. The other comment I have, it would be very nice to be able to link across screens. For example, to be able to link from the vendor list, like vendor part number, link that to manufacturer code. We always use the two fields interchangeably, and to be able to link from the vendor list, vendor cost, back to the last cost.
Yeah, and you can only link information that's on the same screen.
Right, I understand that. My comment is it would be nice to be able to link across screen.
Yeah, and, so here I believe you could link them on, but it gets weird because as you're adding items, you're typically doing it on the main screen and not on the more data screen, because you could link them here. So
Correct.
So I see your point there, and I can definitely put in both of those comments. Those are great suggestions. All right. Well, thank you for attending today. My voice held out for the whole show, so I appreciate you bearing with me with the gravelly voice. And if I go back to my PowerPoint, next week, next week we have the clerk database with Mike Tabor. So be sure to tune in, 9 a.m., Thursday the 21st. And thank you for attending.